All right, so are you ready to dive into some of this Dr. Myron Golden stuff? I'm really curious what you took away from these talks, especially those two we were talking about, the mental self-defense one and the TEDx talk on influence.
Yeah, definitely. It really struck me was how Dr. Golden just cuts right to the chase. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, look, we do things because we feel like it. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes sense on like a surface level, right? But then he goes deeper and he's like, and these feelings, they aren't just in our heads, they're literally in every cell in our body.
Yeah, at first I was like, okay, well, duh, right? But then it really hit me saying our feelings aren't just these like abstract things happening only in our brains, but like they're in our bodies. That's kind of a trip when you really think about it.
Right. It really makes you stop and think, you know? And that's like central to how Dr. Golden sees things, this whole idea that the mind isn't just, stuck in our heads. He's saying it's this awareness that's like woven into our very being.
Yeah, it's like, you know how people say, like, listen to your gut feeling. It's like our body has its own intelligence.
That's a great way to put it. And this leads to this important distinction Dr. Golden makes between contributing factors and what he calls determining factors. And he uses this really clear example of getting fired, right? So like the actual event of being fired, that's a contributing factor. It's something that's happening to you. But it's the meaning we give it, our own personal spin on it, that becomes the determining factor.
So it's not just what happens to us, but how we, like, process it internally.
Exactly. Our internal world is everything. And that brings us to what he calls the belief equation. And it's really pretty simple when you think about it. So first, there's the fact, something observable that happens. Then our own personal focus comes in, and it kind of frames that fact, giving it meaning. And based on that focus, boom, a belief is born. And that belief can either be faith, a belief in a good outcome, or it can be doubt, which is just a belief in a bad outcome.
Oh, wow. I'm starting to see how this all connects. So, like, our feelings come from our beliefs, and our beliefs are shaped by our focus, which is how we interpret those initial events. It's like this chain reaction.
You got it. And those beliefs we were talking about, they directly impact our emotions, whether they're faith or doubt. And this is where it gets really juicy. Dr. Golden says that faith, because it's focused on what you want to happen, it actually creates anticipation. But doubt, because it's so focused on like the negative, the stuff you don't want to happen, that leads to anxiety.
And what I thought was really interesting? He takes it a step further and connects anxiety to, get this, the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he points to Matthew 6.34, where it says, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." It's like he's saying all that worrying, all that anxiety, it's just wasted energy,
Totally. It's like it robs you of being able to just be present in the moment. You know?
And he uses this great example to illustrate this whole anticipation versus anxiety thing. Remember how, like, when we were kids on Christmas Eve, we were practically bursting with excitement.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like you couldn't sleep. You were so excited about those presents.
Exactly. And that's anticipation, right? It fuels us, it gives us energy. But anxiety, it just sucks the life out of us. It paralyzes us.
He calls it paralysis by analysis, which I love.
It's so true. It's like we get so stuck in our heads in that what if it doesn't work headspace that we don't even try.
And the best part is, Dr. Golden gives us this really simple but powerful solution. He says, instead of asking yourself, what if it doesn't work? Ask yourself, how awesome is it going to be when this works?
Whoa, yeah. It's all about shifting your focus, right? From what if I fail to imagine how amazing it will be when I succeed.
Exactly. And this actually ties into another key point Dr. Golden makes about investing in ourselves. And I don't just mean financially, although that's part of it. I mean investing our time, our energy, our everything into our own growth.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
He even tells this story about one of his students who invested, get this, $55,000 in his program. And this student, they ended up being incredibly successful even during those crazy times when everything was shut down for COVID.
Wow, $55,000. That's a serious investment. But I guess that just shows how much he believed in the program and in himself to put that kind of money down.
Right. It all comes back to worthiness. Do we believe that we're worth investing in? And not just with like a little bit of effort here and there, but with, like you said, a serious investment.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think so many of us struggle with feeling like we're worthy of investing in ourselves, Like, we'll hesitate to spend money on a course or a workshop that could help us grow, but then we'll drop hundreds of dollars on a new phone or a weekend trip without a second thought.
That is such a good point. And Dr. Golden really pushes us to examine that, to ask ourselves, what if we put the same energy and excitement into our own growth that we put into buying stuff?
Right. It's like we're sending a message to the universe and to ourselves that we believe in our own potential when we invest in ourselves.
Exactly. And speaking of believing, Dr. Golden talks a lot about influence and how it all ties back to our feelings, remember?
Oh, yeah, he calls it the master key to influence or something like that, right?
Exactly. He says that if we want to be influential, if we want to really make a difference in the world, it all starts with understanding and harnessing the power of our own emotions.
So it's not about like manipulating other people or anything like that, right? It's more about like being aware of our own energy and how it affects those around us.
Exactly. Our feelings are contagious, you know. When we show up with anticipation, with excitement, with positive energy, it creates this ripple effect. It lifts everyone up.
And you know what really got me thinking? It's like Dr. Golden's right. We're almost better at expecting things to go wrong than we are expecting them to go right.
It's so true, isn't it?
Like we've all had those negative experiences, you know, those times when things just didn't work out the way we hoped. And those experiences can really stick with you, you know? It's like they make you expect the worst to happen next time around.
It's like we're more comfortable with disappointment, you know, because at least it's familiar.
It's like that saying, expect the best, prepare for the worst. But maybe we've taken the preparing for the worst part a little too far.
Totally. And that's exactly what Dr. Golden is challenging us to look at. Those deeply ingrained beliefs that are holding us back. Like, what would it look like if we could really cultivate that mindset of anticipation, of truly believing that positive outcomes are possible? And not just possible, but totally within our control to create.
That's a really good question. Because it's not just about like wishing for things to be better, it's about really truly believing they can be better and then taking action from that place of belief, you know?
Exactly. It's not about passive wishing, it's about active creation. Dr. Golden's message is all about empowerment. It's about recognizing that we have way more control over our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions that we often give ourselves credit for.
It's like he's handing us the keys to our own minds and saying, okay, now go out there and create the life you want.
I love that. It's so true. And I think that's what makes Dr. Golden's work so powerful. He's not just offering motivational fluff, he's providing a framework, a set of tools to really understand and harness the incredible power that's within each and every one of us.
Well, he's certainly given me a lot to think about, this whole how awesome is it going to be when this works thing. That's going to be my new mantra.
It's such a simple shift, but you know, they say sometimes the simplest changes can make the biggest difference.
So true. A huge thanks to Dr. Myron Golden for these incredible insights. And to you, our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of the mind. Remember, it all starts with a single thought, so choose your thoughts wisely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.